Hi, good afternoon. All right, today we are talking about estrogen, answering some questions on estrogen. As you know, in perimenopause, your estrogen starts changing. So first, we're going to look today at what is happening to your estrogen in perimenopause. Okay, so as we reach the perimenopausal phase of life, two hormones start changing. One is progesterone, the other is estrogen. Estrogen sometimes takes a little bit longer to start changing than progesterone. Progesterone is the first to change. Then later on, typically comes your estrogen. Now, we tend to think that, menopause means no more hormones. And while that is not true, our body is still actively making hormones, which you guys have heard me talk about before. But it's not like all of a sudden one day we don't have any hormones, or in this case, we're talking about estrogen. Basically, our estrogen does not go from being here in our reproductive years to next day here. Okay, there's a lot that happens in between. And unlike progesterone, which kind of takes just a nice slope downhill in perimenopause, our estrogen does more of a roller coaster up and down type fashion. So what this means to you are some fluctuating in symptoms. So when you reach this phase of life, if your estrogen is going through these extremes, you are likely experiencing mood swings. You are likely experiencing hot flashes and night sweats. You're likely having some weight gain, probably some weight gain in your midsection. These are a few of the symptoms that can start happening. One way to kind of know if estrogen is a factor to play with your symptoms, is a factor at play with your symptoms, is to look at when they're happening. Is there a trend to your symptoms? I'll give an example. Menstrual migraines. Okay, that's a big estrogen symptom. And for a lot of us, menstrual migraines occur at the time of ovulation during our reproductive years. So kind of halfway through our cycle, we experience this menstrual migraine. And that's because your estrogen is going through a big shift when you ovulate. And it's this shift in estrogen that causes the migraine. So when we reach perimenopause, our estrogen might be shifting a lot more frequently than once a month. Okay. It might be going through major changes a couple of times a month. So with that, we see an increased occurrence of these menstrual migraines. But you may find that there's a pattern to them. You may find that they're occurring more around kind of your typical PMS type phase. If your cycles are really inconsistent or your periods are inconsistent in perimenopause, it can be a little trickier to track trends, but still doable. So menstrual migraines is another biggie. Some women even experience some nausea and vomiting due to estrogen shifts during the time of PMS or the time of ovulation. The major ticket here is that these symptoms happen when your estrogen is making a change. And there are a lot of things that we can do to make this change not so extreme for you, so that maybe instead of going like this, like this, like this, like this, your estrogen is more going like this. Okay, so really oversimplification there. So if you're experiencing any of the symptoms I have mentioned and you're in perimenopause, this is a possibility for you. So as far as what to do about it, again, I always start with looking at trends, identifying trends. Once we can identify those, then we can really come in and target them. So this is where having a really curated or customized hormone support strategy becomes super important, because typically we're treated as, the masses. So we know that hormones are changing in perimenopause. Therefore, you, woman A, is going to be treated the same as woman B, woman C, woman D, right? But as woman A, your estrogen might be going high all the time. Woman B, your estrogen is really just going low. It's doing some different things. So I also do like to check my clients' hormone levels. And we do it at a particular time of the month if you are still cycling regularly, because then we can get a little bit more insight into what your estrogen is doing. But by far, symptoms are what help me identify if you have that roller coaster estrogen syndrome going on. And as someone who has been working with women's hormones for over 12 years now, there are a lot of really telltale signs that when we start talking, I can tell you, yes, estrogen is a factor here, or not so much. I think it's more of a cortisol factor. So you can always reach out to me, send a DM, you can schedule a consultation through our website, and we can talk more about this. The other question that I wanted to address is the question of estrogen replacement. And okay, so say I have all these symptoms of estrogen, of low estrogen, or fluctuating estrogen. You know, say I have night sweats, like every 3 weeks. My mood is all over the place, and I'm getting this midsection tire around my waist that I've heard so much about, and it's happening to me. Is estrogen replacement, taking estrogen, the only way to help? No, absolutely not. That is not the only way to help. That is not at all what I would recommend starting with for most women. There's a lot of things we can do before we get to that point. Or if you're someone who is already on estrogen, there are things we can do to help getting off estrogen easier for you if that is a goal for you. HRT, or hormone replacement therapy, including estrogen replacement, there's a lot of pros and there's a lot of cons, but I want you ladies to be informed and to know that you have options, and to know that estrogen replacement is not the only way. And in fact, you know, I would even venture to say that it's not necessarily the best way for the majority of women. Of course, there are caveats and there are exceptions to that. But my experience with estrogen replacement or hormone replacement in general is that, you know, it's not the magic pill that we were hoping it was. You know, sometimes it helps alleviate symptoms fairly quickly. You know, some people respond really well. So at first it can seem like, yes, this is the greatest thing ever. But over time, as this estrogen replacement starts to accumulate in your system, we can see some problems develop from that as well. So no, it's not the only option. In fact, I don't even think it should be the first option. Okay. What else? Yeah, I mean, you know, a lot of questions that I've been getting are just surrounding, okay, what do we do? What do we do then if not estrogen replacement? And it just so much depends on you. I can't say do X, do Y, do Z, because I don't know if that fits into the life that you're living and into your lifestyle, right? And then if I'm telling you to do something that doesn't fit into your lifestyle, then it is, or at least is not doable in your lifestyle, then it's not going to work. And that's not what we want. So once we identify specifically, you know, what's going on, we figure out what is, or at least we have a better grasp on what your estrogen's doing, then we come in, I look at what you're doing in your day-to-day, what you're doing, how you're living essentially, and where can we make some tweaks to those things to help support this unstable estrogen, right? We might not fix it all together because we're in perimenopause and our bodies are changing, but we want to control the factors we can control. So that's where it really helps to just kind of have an expert set of eyes looking at your day in and day out. So we can say, hey, look, you know, we see this here, this change that you could make that would make a big difference. Then this shift that we could make that would make a big difference. And then this one. And it's the accumulation or the buildup of all of these small things in the life that you're already living that snowball and make the big difference, and that make the big difference that will last. rather than saying everybody on here should, you know, I don't know, everybody on here should eat potatoes every day to do this, whatever it may be, because this is a very, silly example, but because you may hate potatoes, right? And so if I'm then telling you to do that, it's not going to work for you. You might be like, okay, sure, Lisa, I'll eat those potatoes, never really do it. Or you might do it for 2 weeks. And then you're like, no, I'm over this. I didn't like these potatoes to begin with. I didn't want to be doing this. I don't understand why I have to. And you move on. And it's not resulting in the long-term benefit that you want for you and that I want for you. So that's what I mean when I use the word, curated. It's a hormone strategy that is really curated or designed for you in the life that you're living, and designed in a way that you don't have to continue wondering. We're here to support you all and to teach you how to take care of your body in perimenopause. But these things continue to apply after you achieve menopause and in the decades to come. So I hope this gave you some helpful information today. I also hope you're having a lovely week. I'm here for you with any questions.